Welcome to Sharika Talks, Unraveling the Truth, a journalist's quest. Subscribe for the truth.
Chapter 25, The Tiger Beneath the Veil. As the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon pulled away from Jaisalmer Airport, Aishwarya from the driver's seat glanced at Nimi, who was typing furiously on her laptop. It was about 48 hours ago that she had picked up a bleeding Sachin after he crossed the Indo-Pak border from Audar with a huge, mysterious load. His orders had been urgent: reach Deep Science City at any cost. It had been a race against time. She had driven the 950 kilometers in just under 8 hours while Sachin slept in the passenger seat. The next 24 hours were different. He had been restless, paranoid, and on edge. Why the rush? She didn't know. Neither did Nimi nor Aparna, who were also burdened with critical assignments. Although they all had their roles, no one knew what he was really doing. It was called compartmentalization in the government agency where she had worked before. She never felt the curiosity to ask questions. She always preferred to simply do. The task at hand now would cost several $billion, and they still had to complete it within 12 hours. She didn't know that if Sachin had revealed his true intentions, even she would have been terrified to the core. Meanwhile, Sharika's bike ride from Delhi to Banbasa was smooth. Despite the critical tasks awaiting them in Nepal, they enjoyed the journey. As per Sharika's request, Riaz handed over the Royal Enfield just after they left the outskirts of Delhi. Although she hadn't ridden a bike in 2 years, Riaz was impressed by her handling skills. The crisp morning breeze and the road shining under the early sun felt like a path to a dreamland. National Highway 9, which spans from Punjab to Uttarakhand, loomed in front of her like infinity. Both sides of the highway were flanked by endless farmlands. Mist glistened on the tips of grass and wheat, laying a yellowish-white carpet over the green fields. As her eyes scanned the horizon, she saw figures scattered like dots a couple of 100 meters apart. Most seemed to be sitting on the ground. Then, with a jolt of disgust, she realized what she was seeing. The ones standing up were nude below the waist, both men and women. She realized how distant the two faces of India were. Many of them might not be poor, some perhaps even richer than her own grandfather, but they chose to stick with their tradition of going to the loo in the open. Public toilets existed in almost every village, and government support was available for anyone without one at home. But facilities could only be provided. Using them was a matter of choice. And here, the choice was clear. They reached Rudrapur, the entrance to Uttarakhand state, by 9 a.m. and stopped for breakfast. They called Anuj and Farhana, who were just entering the airport for their flight. After breakfast, Riaz took over driving. By 10:15 a.m., they reached the small border town of Banbasa. Riaz had already called Adam, who confirmed he was waiting at the Nepal end of the border. They left the bike with Riaz's friend and walked the 10 minutes to the Indo-Nepal border, each with a rucksack on their shoulder. They crossed the Sharada River Bridge, part of the Banbasa Dam, their minds focused on the task ahead. They decided to first investigate the two locations Sheila had given them, Kolhapur and Tulsipur, which were en route to Butwal, where Sharika had Sachin's location pinned last year. The border was almost non-existent. Any Indian with an ID card could enter freely. Sharika and Riaz crossed the border arch, showed their IDs to the officers, and just 50 meters away, an old 4-seater Willys Jeep was waiting for them. It looked like it might have participated in the First World War. It had a winch on the front and back, a soft-top roof, and a black paint job that was almost unrecognizable under the caked-on mud. Beside it stood a man who looked like he was in his late 30s, with a clean-shaven face and salt and pepper hair, waving at Riaz. He was about 6 feet tall, with a broad chest and a thin waist. Riaz introduced Sharika to Adam, their driver. He greeted them warmly, and seeing Sharika's glance at his Jeep, he smiled. "Even if I kept my Jeep clean, The roads in Nepal will make it untidy within an hour. You don't know our roads." As they started, Sharika understood what Adam meant. The roads in the towns were smooth, but the stretches between them were a disaster. The Jeep bucked and jolted so violently that she felt like she was about to be launched into orbit. On the hill terrain, the path was a sliver between life and death, a deep valley on one side and a high cliff on the other. Adam drove like a rally racer, his Jeep seeming to grip the earth in defiance of physics. Any other girl might have thrown up, but Sharika was enjoying the ride. Even Riaz's face looked terrified, though he didn't say a word. During the journey, Adam told them his story. He was a chemistry graduate, but as he chuckled, "Chemistry couldn't give me food." When the factory he worked at was destroyed in the 2015 earthquake, he became jobless, bought the old Willys Jeep, and became a driver. "Small earthquakes and floods happen frequently in Nepal," he explained. "That's why most roads are like this." He told them about his wife and his 7-year-old daughter, Alice. Google Maps had estimated a 5-hour journey to their first destination, Kolhapur. They reached the small town by 2:30 p.m. in just 3 hours and 50 minutes. Sharika looked at Adam in awe. She was a license holder herself, but she knew she could never drive like him. As they had lunch, she thought about his life, balancing those 4 wheels just to keep his own life running. Adam showed them a photo of his daughter. Perched on Alice's shoulder was a small animal that resembled a white rat. "What's that?" Sharika asked, bemused. "Oh, it's a sugar glider," Adam said proudly. "She calls him Venus. We have 6 of them now. She calls them by the names of the planets in the solar system. She adores them. They've been her best friends since she was 3. A quick Google search informed Sharika that sugar gliders were friendly, nocturnal rodents with wing-like structures that allowed them to glide through the air. "Aren't they expensive?" Riaz asked, handing Adam his phone back. "Yeah. The first pair cost me 25,000 Nepali rupees, almost half of what I make in a month. But Alice insisted. If I sold the offspring, I'd get a good return, but she won't allow it. After all, her happiness is why I'm working so hard. It's my duty to fulfill her wishes, right?" Adam replied, finishing his meal. Riaz said nothing. He simply nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. He had no frame of reference for a father's devotion to a daughter. After lunch, they started walking through the town, visiting neighboring villages and talking to the locals. The names Sher Shah and Rakhi did indeed ring a bell. Some said Rakhi was an evil spirit lurking in the jungle. Others said the same of Sher Shah. A few claimed they had accidentally seen men with weapons training deep in the forest. They restarted their journey around 7 p.m. with more questions than answers. The terrain slowly changed from deep valleys to thick forests. "I think just like Sheila Mom said, this Sher Shah is the black tiger," Sharika told Riaz over the roar of the Jeep. "I don't think Sachin is a Vidhur agent. Instead, he must be an agent of this Rakhi. I think they planned the attack in Amritsar, but the black tiger countered it." "But how can you be sure the black tiger hasn't defected and started working for Pakistan?" Riaz countered. They still couldn't reach any conclusions. A river, which Adam explained was the Rapti River, appeared frequently on the right side of their trail. "What's that? Can you stop, please?" Sharika asked suddenly, pointing at a clearing near the river, her eyes fixed on the sky. A bright, ethereal light resembling a milky river loomed in the moonless night. "Oh, it's the Milky Way. Our own galaxy," Adam replied, stopping the Jeep. "Haven't you ever seen it?" "No," Sharika whispered, her voice filled with awe. Adam cut the engine. The sudden silence was immense, just the rush of the river and the whisper of leaves. Sharika stepped out. The air was cooler here, the scent of wet earth thick in her lungs. Above her, the galaxy spilled from horizon to horizon, a luminous cloud swirling with pale gold and silver, as if someone had painted light itself across the sky. It appeared like a gossamer thin white cloud, and she instantly understood how it got its name. She had heard of it, of course, but had never seen it in person. "It's the light pollution in our cities that prevents us," Riaz added, his voice soft. "It's always up there, but we can't see it because our skies are polluted with light and dust. I've seen it several times, mostly in Kashmir." Sharika walked to the riverbank. Water mirrored the stars so perfectly that it felt as if she could step forward and fall into the sky. The current caught the starlight, breaking it into glittering fragments that drifted downstream. Sharika was fully immersed in the mesmerizing sight, watching the silent river perfectly reflect the star cluster. "It's a great frame with that reflection," Riaz added, taking out his camera. Adam remained in the Jeep. For him, it was a daily sight that didn't bother him. But Sharika's bemusement reminded him of an old friend who had been just as mesmerized by the same view many years ago. Sharika felt as if her mere existence had led to this one perfect moment. But at that moment, Adam quickly started the Jeep and jerked it into a start in its lowest gear with all the acceleration it could master and rushed towards the confused Sharika. The roar of the engine entirely killed the silence of that calm moment. Riaz witnessed the disaster, which played out in front of him in disbelief.
Thank you for watching Unraveling the Truth, A Journalist's Quest. Subscribe to stay updated on Sharika's journey. Stay tuned for the next part.
Disclaimer. Unraveling the Truth, A Journalist's Quest is a work of fiction. The experiences, ideas, and theories presented by the characters, including the books they write, are purely fictional and do not reflect real-world events, beliefs, or ideologies. While some incidents and characters may be inspired by real-world scenarios, they are entirely fictionalized for storytelling purposes. The author does not endorse or share the viewpoints expressed by any character in this novel. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or real events is purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised.